You know that feeling when you glance at your wood floors and they just look well
Mhm.
tired? Scratches telling a story you'd maybe rather forget, the finish all dull and lifeless.
Mhm.
You might immediately jump to thinking, okay, got to call on the pros and, brace for a hefty bill.
Right.
But what if you could actually take control and bring that wood back to life yourself?
Hmm.
This deep dive is all about empowering you with the knowledge to refinish your own wood floors.
Mm.
You could save potentially hundreds, even thousands, and get that satisfaction of a truly transformative DIY project.
Exactly. We're going to delve into the step-by-step process of refinishing wood flooring, as a do-it-yourself undertaking. Our focus today will be on solid wood floors and, well, most engineered wood options too.
As long as they have that thick enough wear layer.
Right. Precisely, provided they have a sufficiently thick wear layer. It's really remarkable the difference a proper sanding and a fresh coat of finish can make to the entire feel of a space.
So let's nail down what we actually mean by refinishing. Okay, let's unpack this. At its core, it's about giving your wood floor a completely fresh surface.
Yeah.
We're talking about carefully sanding away the existing top layer. That's where all the scratches and dullness reside to reveal the bare wood underneath.
Right, getting down to the good stuff.
Then you apply a new protective finish to seal it all up and make it look beautiful again. The transformation can be, well, quite dramatic.
And that brings us to a really important point. How do you know if refinishing is actually the right move for your floors, rather than, say, opting for a complete replacement?
Good question.
The first thing to assess is the structural integrity. Are the individual wood boards basically sound? Are there no signs of significant rot or huge unsightly gaps?
Okay, structural soundness first.
Secondly, consider how many times the floor might have been sanded before. Solid wood is pretty robust. It can typically handle multiple refinishing cycles over its lifetime.
Right, it's got more depth to work with.
Exactly. Engineered wood, like we mentioned, has that top layer of real wood, the wear layer. And the thickness of that layer dictates how many times it can be sanded. Usually it's maybe once or twice, assuming it's at least, say, 2-3 millimeters thick to start with.
So you need a decent veneer on top of that manufactured core.
Precisely. That wear layer is essentially a veneer of real wood.
All right, so you've taken a good look at your floors. They seem structurally sound, and you're pretty confident they haven't been sanded down to nothing already. Refinishing it is fantastic.
Okay.
Now, let's get into the practicalities, the step-by-step guide to actually making this happen. Step 1, prepping the room.
This might seem obvious, but honestly, it's absolutely crucial for a successful outcome.
Cannot stress this enough.
You need a completely empty workspace. I mean, imagine trying to do a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces hidden under the sofa. It just won't work, right?
Yeah, totally.
Every single item needs to be removed. I know this can be a bit of a logistical headache, especially with heavy furniture, but trust us, it's a non-negotiable first step. Absolutely. Once the room is completely clear, the next phase of prep is all about cleanliness. You need to eliminate every single trace of dust and debris. Think of it like preparing a blank canvas before an artist starts painting.
Right. Any lingering dirt or grit will just interfere with the sanding, won't it? And could lead to an uneven finish.
Exactly. And while you're at it, take a really close look at the entire floor surface. Are there any nails or staples that have sort of worked their way loose and are sticking up?
Oh, good point.
You'll need to use a nail punch and a hammer to carefully tap those below the surface of the wood. If you don't, they can cause pretty significant damage to the sanding equipment when you go over them.
Yikes. Okay, so clear the room, clean meticulously, sink any stray nails.
Got it.
Now, here's where it can get a little surprising maybe.
Oh.
Dust control. It's paramount.
Oh, yeah.
Sanding wood generates an astonishing amount of very fine dust and has this uncanny ability to travel everywhere.
It really does.
The pro tip here is definitely use plastic sheeting and painter's tape to seal off all the doorways, vents, any other openings in the room. Seriously, I remember helping a friend with this once. And even though we thought we were careful sealing, we were still finding fine dust in rooms down the hall weeks later.
It gets everywhere.
So take the extra time to seal things off properly. You'll definitely thank yourself later.
Moving on to step 2, sanding the floor itself. This is where you'll really start seeing the transformation begin, and it does require the right equipment.
Yeah, you can't just use a handheld sander for this, can you?
No, not really for the whole floor. For the main areas, you'll typically need to run to drum sander. And then for getting into those tighter spots along the walls, maybe under radiators, and definitely in the corners, an edge sander is essential.
Okay, drum sander and edge sander. Rentable items.
Yeah, readily available for hire at most tool rental places.
And the sandpaper you use is just as critical as the sander itself, right? It's not like a one-size-fits-all situation.
Not at all. You start with a coarse grit sandpaper, something around, say, 36 grit is pretty common. That's to aggressively remove the old finish and any significant scratches or imperfections.
Okay, start rough.
Then you gradually work your way through a series of finer grits. Typically, this might involve moving to maybe 60 grit, then perhaps 80 grit, and finally finishing with a fine grit, somewhere in the 100 to 120 grit range.
And why the progression? Why not just jump to the fine stuff?
Well, this progression is necessary because each finer grit removes the scratches left by the previous coarser one. It ensures you get a really smooth, even surface that's ready for the finish. If you were to skip grits, you'd risk leaving behind deeper, more visible swirl marks or scratches.
Makes sense. Smooth it out step by step.
And what's absolutely vital during the sanding process is to always sand with the grain of the wood. Going against the grain will leave really noticeable scratch marks that will be incredibly difficult, maybe impossible to remove later.
Right, with the grain. Always.
And this is a key point. Keep the sander moving constantly. Never, ever let it stay in one place, even for like a fraction of a second.
Oh, really? Why?
If you do, it will dig into the wood and create uneven patches or dips in your floor, which is definitely not the desired outcome. Keep it moving smoothly and evenly.
Okay, so you've completed the sanding marathon, and at this point, you're likely covered head to toe in a fine layer of wood dust.
Pretty much, yeah.
Step 3 is all about the cleanup, and believe me, this is not a step you can afford to skimp on. We are talking about a significant quantity of very fine dust particles that need to be completely removed.
Precisely. The first order of business is a thorough vacuuming. You'll want to go over the entire floor surface multiple times, really paying attention to corners and edges where that dust loves to accumulate.
Use a good vacuum, maybe one with a HEPA filter.
Ideally, yes. Use a vacuum cleaner with a good filter. After you've vacuumed meticulously, the next crucial step is to wipe down the floor.
Right, get that last bit of residue.
A slightly damp microfiber cloth or a tack cloth works exceptionally well for picking up any remaining fine dust particles that the vacuum might have missed. The goal here is a perfectly clean, dust-free surface before you even think about applying the finish.
Because any dust left behind will just get trapped in the finish and ruin the look, right?
Exactly. It'll mar the final result. You want it pristine.
All right, clean slate achieved. We've reached step 4. Applying your chosen finish. This is the stage where you really start to see the new character and, the beauty of your wood floors emerge.
The fun part.
Yeah. And there are a few main types of finishes available, each with its own sort of set of characteristics and benefits.
That's right. First, we have oil-based polyurethane. This has been, a traditional and very popular choice, mainly for its exceptional durability and resistance to wear and tear. It forms a really hard, protective layer that can withstand a lot of foot traffic.
No, durable. What are the downsides?
However, it's worth noting that oil-based polyurethane typically has a longer drying time, and it emits quite a strong odor during application and drying, so ensuring good ventilation is absolutely crucial. Open windows, fans.
Right. Good airflow is a must.
Yeah.
Then we have water-based polyurethane.
Yes. A significant advantage here is its much faster drying time, which is great, and a considerably lower odor. Many people find that much more appealing to work with.
Less fumes, quicker turnaround.
It also tends to give the wood a lighter, clearer finish, which can be desirable depending on the look you're going for. It doesn't yellow as much over time as oil-based sometimes can.
Okay. And the third main type.
And then there's the option of hard wax oils, which our source author mentioned as a personal favorite. These are generally made from more natural and often non-toxic ingredients.
Ah, the eco-friendlier option, perhaps.
Often, yes. And they provide a lovely, soft, sort of matte finish that many find aesthetically really pleasing. A key benefit of hard wax oils is that they are often easier to touch up if you happen to get a scratch or a dent down the line.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
You can often just treat the affected area locally without having to refinish the entire floor, which is a huge plus compared to polyurethanes.
That is a big advantage. Okay, so you've picked your poison, your finish. How do you actually put it on?
Right. When it comes to actually applying the finish, regardless of whether you choose a polyurethane or a hard wax oil, the basic process is generally pretty similar. You'll typically use a good quality brush or maybe a roller designed for the specific type of finish you're using.
Check the manufacturer's recommendations, I assume.
Always. You'll want to start in a corner, usually the one farthest from the door, and work your way methodically across the room, always applying the finish in the direction of the wood grain for the best appearance. Smooth, even strokes.
And it's probably not just one coat and done, is it?
No, definitely not. It's important to remember that one coat of finish is rarely sufficient for adequate protection and a smooth, even result. Most finishes require 2, sometimes even 3 coats.
Okay, multiple coats. What about in between?
Between each coat, after it has fully dried according to the manufacturer's instructions, and you need to follow those drying times carefully, you'll want to lightly sand the floor with a very fine grit sandpaper, maybe like 220 grit or even finer.
Sanding between coats. Why?
This light abrasion, often called scuff sanding, does 2 things. It knocks down any tiny dust nibs or imperfections that might have settled in the wet finish. And crucially, it gives the surface a bit of tooth, which helps the subsequent coat of finish adhere better. It creates a stronger and smoother final surface overall.
Ah, okay. So light sand, clean off the dust again, then the next coat.
Exactly. Vacuum and wipe down again after each inner coat sanding.
Finally, we arrive at step 5. Allowing the finish to cure properly. Now, even though your new finish might feel dry to the touch relatively quickly, maybe in a few hours, the full curing process where the finish really hardens completely and reaches its maximum durability takes significantly longer. Patience is absolutely key at this stage.
It really is. Resist the urge to move furniture back into the room too soon, and definitely try to minimize heavy foot traffic for the duration of the recommended curing time specified by the finish manufacturer. This could be several days, even up to a week or more, depending on the product and conditions.
So, no dance parties immediately after the last coat dries to the touch.
Probably not advisable. Our source material offers a great perspective here. Maybe view this curing time as an opportunity for a break. Perhaps it's a good time to visit family or take care of errands outside the house, knowing that you'll be returning to a beautifully finished room.
Right, let it do its thing undisturbed. That floor reveal moment can be incredibly satisfying, can't it? Make all your hard work feel truly worthwhile.
Absolutely.
So why would someone choose to undertake this, pretty significant project as a DIY endeavor? We touched on it, but let's reinforce it.
Well, the most compelling reason, as you said earlier, is the substantial cost savings. Hiring professional floor refinishers can be a really significant investment.
Yeah, adds up quickly.
It can potentially run into hundreds or even thousands, depending on the size of the room, the condition of the floor, the type of finish. Doing it yourself can save you a considerable chunk of money.
Just the cost of materials and tool rental, essentially.
Exactly. And beyond the purely financial aspect, there's also a real sense of control, isn't there? You get to make all the decisions from the specific type of finish to the sheen level, maybe even a stain color if you go that route. You have complete autonomy over the final appearance of your floors.
Yeah, you're not just accepting whatever the contractor suggests.
And let's not overlook the immense personal satisfaction that comes from witnessing such a dramatic transformation that you've achieved through your own effort. There's a genuine sense of accomplishment in stepping back and admiring floors that you have personally brought back to life.
Definitely a bragging right project.
Yeah.
Our source even highlights a fantastic real-world example. A customer named Rachel from Leeds, apparently, refinished her original Victorian pine floorboards using a hard wax oil that had caught her eye. The before and after photos were reportedly stunning, just showcasing a complete revival of the wood's natural warmth and character. And incredibly, she managed to complete the entire project over a single weekend.
Wow, that's impressive. A weekend warrior.
That really underscores what's achievable with a bit of dedication and, the right approach.
Before we wrap up, let's quickly recap a few final but very important tips to keep in mind. Firstly, always, without exception, test your chosen finish on a small, inconspicuous area of the floor first, maybe in a closet or under where a large piece of furniture will sit.
Why is that so critical?
This allows you to see exactly how the finish will look on your specific wood, including the final color and sheen level. It ensures you're happy with the results before you commit to doing the entire floor. Wood types vary, old finishes might react. Better safe than sorry.
Good advice. Test first. What else?
Safety first. Always. We mentioned dust, but this cannot be emphasized enough. Make absolutely sure you wear a properly fitted dust mask like an N95 respirator ideally, and safety goggles throughout the entire sanding process. Protect your lungs and eyes from those fine wood dust particles.
Non-negotiable safety gear.
Got it. And remember our earlier point about Russian. Just resist the urge to cut corners or speed through any of the steps. Thorough and meticulous preparation is absolutely fundamental to achieving the best possible and longest lasting results.
Patience is a virtue here.
Absolutely. Take your time with each stage, from emptying the room and cleaning through the sanding grits to applying the final coat of finish. The extra care will definitely pay dividends in the end result.
Okay. And finally, while our focus today has really been on the core refinishing process, just sanding and applying a new finish, it's worth briefly mentioning that more significant alterations are also possible for the more ambitious DIYer, right?
Yeah, definitely. Options like staining the floor a completely new color before applying the top coat, or even carefully replacing individual damaged boards can be explored. Those are maybe topics for another deep dive.
True. But for simply revitalizing tired-looking wood floors, basic refinishing, sanding, and top coating is an incredibly effective and, importantly, budget-friendly solution.
Totally agree. So the next time you look down at your less than perfect wood floors, remember that you actually possess the ability to transform them. This isn't some overly complex or unattainable task reserved only for professionals.
It's doable.
It really is. With a bit of knowledge, careful preparation, and some focused effort, you can achieve truly impressive, professional-looking results and, in the process, save a significant amount of money.
And that brings us nicely to our final thought for you to consider. Picture the revitalized feeling of your home with those beautifully refinished wood floors underfoot. The natural warmth and beauty of the wood grain just shining through once more. And think about that deep sense of personal satisfaction that comes from knowing you accomplished this transformation yourself. So what other projects or improvements around your home might actually be within your reach with a little bit of know-how and the willingness to just dive in?
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.